Hello everyone, my name is N Ginski. Welcome back to the new episode of The Rising Stars. And I am very happy to present to you today hilarious comedian actor, N Guzinski.
Hello.
Hi Nir. I don't know if you should say three different hellos.
Hello, hi, bonjour, like all the three accents
All
and all the three languages.
I have a funny personal story actually, because when I just registered on TikTok, your account was one of the first 5 that I actually followed because of your funny sketches. And for me, you were like a big star. And I remember when I still think you're genius in what you're doing.
I appreciate it. But not a big star. Still here.
But you know what? When I remember I was coming to my acting class with Susanna Linier, and I saw you walking, and I felt like a 15 years teenager. Like, oh my God, it's Nir.
It's true. We met in Susanna's class.
Yeah, and you were so approachable and just fun to interact with. So yeah, you see, like for me, you were like a big star. And even for my son, I told him, hey, like I'm interviewing Nir today. He's like, oh, you're interviewing Nir.
He's in class too with you.
Yeah, he's
That's
in class
gotta be
too,
such a fun kind of experience to have you and your son in an acting class.
Yeah, it is. So going back to how it all started, very typical question that we usually start the conversation here, and then let's see where it leads us to.
Okay, do you want me to start at like the beginning of the sprouting of the flower, or
the flower,
the tree,
near flower, near flower as an actor.
So I was a very awkward kid, I would say, and I was always in my own world. Very young, I started making like skits in front of my family, so to entertain them, and I was impersonating a lot of different celebrities or government officials that I would see on TV, just their voices and accents. And I think when I was like 9 or 10, my dad was just like, he's annoying. This kid's annoying. Let's put him somewhere where he can do it in front of other people, maybe do something with it. And so he brought me, I think it was around, I can't remember exact, I think it was maybe 10, to an acting agency called Focus International. And they used to have a big office downtown. And so I started in an agency, but I was still a shy kid, so I would just do auditions, but I was terrified. And then nothing really came about it. I was just going into auditions every so often as a little kid, and I was still doing my little voices and my little creative stuff. And then I got into high school and got super self-conscious, and then Focus International closed their doors. So I was now just back into the wild, and stopped acting for a good 5-6 years.
Oh, wow.
And then and I was a very shy, weird kid. And one day in one of our classes, it was an English class. I was in a French high school, and it was an English class, and we had to read Robinson Crusoe. And we each were given a character to read. And so I was reading for the sidekick. I can't remember the exact name, but I was reading the sidekick, and I decided to make a voice and an accent and play the character. And all the students, I was the shy, weird kid, so all of a sudden I do this weird voice, and the students all turn and they're like, who is this guy? And that kind of brought me back into then I joined theater class in high school, and I played an old lady. It was I'm very, perfect typecast, old lady. And then I watched I'm going through your journey here, reminiscing. Then I saw 10 Things I Hate About You with Julia Stiles. And I was just like, I want to do that. I want to be on set with that. I want to just have that much fun and be in that world. And so I kind of started back into getting involved a little more. But at that point, I tried to get an agent, and they told me that you needed experience and not just innate talent as a child. So I started doing short films, applying to Trebas Institute short films and other short film productions and school productions, independent theater, and just kind of evolved through that. So that's the beginnings of Nir the Plant Actor.
Did you do theater as well? So you did both theater and film.
Yeah.
Any preferences?
It's like I love theater for the instant gratification and the reactions and the storytelling and the ability to play a character throughout the entire process of the story from beginning to end. I love that about theater. It is terrifying. Like I still every 10 minutes before getting on stage, my heart is racing. I turn to all the other actors and I'm like, why do we do this? This is terrifying. And then you get on stage, you say your first line, and then everything just kind of, like, for me, just dissipates. And then at the end of the show, unless you mess up and it's a terrible show, which has happened, you finish the thing, you get the claps, and you're like, let's do this again. Okay, can we do this right now? Let's go and do it again.
It's like an adrenaline.
It's an adrenaline rush. Whereas TV and film is a different beast. I think it's another fun. It's just that you have a whole other world. You got cameras all around. You got people watching you. You got to tell a story that you got to show it in such a quick turnaround and you got to repeat it. And you just got to love to be able to just play constantly and be on and then off and then on and then off. So to me, that's kind of like they're two different worlds. I watch TV and movies every day, so I want to be in front of a screen. But in theater, it's like you're in front of an audience, which is totally different. So yeah, I think there's no real preference, like both of them.
You just mentioned about before you get on stage, your heart goes.
Yes.
So I had that question at a later part of my interview, but I'm gonna put it right away because I think it's a perfect moment. How do you cope with the stress, right? Like how many years you've been in the industry?
Since I was 13, so I would say minus the 5-year break. Since I was 19, long time, for over 15, over 18 years.
Do you still? I mean, like
every day.
How do you cope with that? Any tips, tricks? I don't know. Jump, run.
I think everybody's different. Like some people have stress and nerves all the way through the process. Like let's say the 2 weeks before the show is supposed to start, you're terrified and you're nervous and you feel it. For me, it's like literally the hour before the show. Like I'll be fine throughout the process, but the hour before the show is when, and then 5 minutes before it gets 10 times worse. But it's preparation. I think that the best way to avoid or mitigate those nerves to take over on stage or in front of a camera is to be prepared. And that's training, and that's preparing for your character and working on your story and the lines and just being ready. And that's where I think I believe you need to have the butterflies and you need to have the nerves, because otherwise it means it's not that important to you, or it's not that meaningful, or you're not alive in that moment. Some people have the ability to just be like, I'm cool, I'm fine, I love this. And they don't get nervous, and maybe that's just their fabric. I played soccer as a kid too, and similarly, the moment you get on the field, heart races a little bit, and once you're in it, then you're focused, because it's just like anything you work on. It's like that flow state they call, right? Like you get into that flow state and then you're part of it. But when you're not prepared or something's off, you're hyper aware, and that's when the stress becomes a problem. And that's when it happens. Like it happened to me in one play where I froze and I was just like, what the fuck's my line? Ooh, I can't swear. What's my line? I apologize, no swearing. What's my line? And then you have to hope for either a great partner or other actor in front of you, or that it comes back, and then you just keep going.
What happened with you in that specific moment when you frozen? Did you have a good partner?
I had a great partner, yeah. I had a great partner. They saw you can tell a little bit, so I had like a moment of like hesitation, and then it just like a stare down, and then they just picked it up, and then it came back. But we had, I don't know if I can go on a tangent of a crazy story on stage. We were doing what is a one-man show from England called Talking... Can I say the C word? It's another word for the male appendage.
Okay.
So it's a one-man show about penises, and he went around and interviewed a bunch of people in England, women and men, about penises and all that stuff. And a friend of mine, Donald Reese, who has a production company for theater called Brave New Productions, brought the show here and made it into 4 people doing the play. So we're talking to the audience, and it was 2 actors and 2 stand-up comics. And we had to talk to the audience, so it was like breaking the fourth wall. So as actors, that was my first time doing that on
Yeah, you
stage.
don't.
Not used to it. You're
Stand-up
looking.
comedians, they do it regularly.
Exactly.
It becomes part of their routine on stage. Yeah, for the actors.
So it was me and my friend Sean Curley, and we were just like, it was kind of new to us, but we all had our lines, and the person who started the show was a stand-up comic. So he was supposed to take on and lead the audience through it. And he starts the show, and within, I'd say maybe 10 seconds, he blanks. And my first line is like 7 pages in, because he's got a whole 2 pages, then another guy's got 2 pages, another guy intertwines. So we're all like staring at the audience, and he's blanking, and then the other guy turns to me, the other stand-up, he's like, I don't know, what's happening? And so then the lead guy turns to me and goes, I'm blanked. Just go.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I can't go. I'm 7 pages into a totally different storyline. He then, the other stand-up comic then luckily picks up a little bit and he goes, penises. Am I right? He just does that. And at one point our like AD or the sound person was about to shut it off and turn off the lights, because it was like, I think we lasted about, it felt like an eternity, but it was about a minute of quiet, of us just staring at the audience. And eventually I picked up from my line way past 7 pages, and we started going. And so that was our first opening night. And it was terrifying. And then after that, and that's why I go back to preparation, after that, before every show that we went on, we had another 9 shows. 2 hours before the show, we recited the whole play over in the back, all of us. We did the Italian go through the play, and then we did it like once, twice, to get everybody prepared to know what we're doing and to not blank. So yeah, preparation.
Oh my God! How you? I mean, it was the first show, so how it didn't throw everyone off completely? Because it's so tough when.
It's tough. It threw us off, but we have to. Again, when I think when you're put into that position, that's what theater makes it so unique to theater, and it's what's terrifying about theater, but also amazing, is that you have no choice, and it's sink or swim. And I think we all know that whole like, I don't know if it still exists or not, but when you throw a kid into water and he needs to swim,
it still exists.
Still exists.
I think it might exist.
Is it legal?
I don't know.
But like. Sink or swim. You either sink or you swim, and a lot of times in the toughest situations, the most like scary situations, you rise to the occasion, or somebody does, and that's why luckily when you're in a group of people, in a crew, in a team of actors, there's always somebody that's going to rise to the occasion, and you have to. It happens. I've never heard of a play all of a sudden freezing like on Broadway, just like one actor is frozen and then everybody else is like, I don't know
what to do.
Oh yeah, cut. It doesn't happen. Like theater is that kind of way, right?
Yeah.
Whereas TV and film is different. You can cut. What's your lines?
Another take.
Let's do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're just. That's why I always find fascinating and much more difficult in theater is that you have one shot.
Yeah, but that's where
Either you mess it up, you don't have 25 takes. That's
exactly.
it. You have to get it right from the get-go.
And that's where you have weeks. Most like big productions have weeks, sometimes months of preparation. Whereas actors in TV and film, it's not as sometimes like you're a lead in a massive production and there's like stunts and this and that and you're part of it. You're probably doing the whole like rehearsals, and you do get rehearsal periods in big productions or shows, but it's a quicker turnaround. Whereas theater, you got months to prepare. Independent theater, not so much. We did a play recently. I was on a show in July. We had 4 rehearsals before the show. It was terrifying. But again, as a group, we had 4 rehearsals. The guy that was Donald, who was basically a one-man show. He had like 100 pages of text, and he was preparing for a year to memorize the lines and get all the character down. But we had, as a group, we were 3, and we only had 4 or 5 rehearsals.
Oh, that's like.
It was tough. It was tough.
Not a lot.
No.
Speaking about the preparation, I have 2 questions in that.
Oh,
so
bring it on.
question number 1, and again, going back to your theater experience, again, in film, TV, it's a bit easier. You get your script. Yes, you do still have a big script to learn, but it's kind of cut in portions. So you have time to prepare the next scene before you have the day before, whatever.
Yeah.
Depends, right?
Yeah.
Theater, gazillion pages of script, tips, tricks, how you learn, how you memorize that amount of the text.
I think it's evolved for me. I used to be very much like go through it, read it, and then go through line by line, then go, I know this line, go back. Say this line, then this line, go back. And, it depends. I do much more reading now, like over and over the script, over and over, to get a sense of what the story is, what the scene is about, what the character is about, and then kind of as I'm reading it, I imagine what's going on and kind of like the dynamic, and then kind of build that story and the character. So when you are familiar with the story, it's like when you tell a kid a fable or a story that you've read hundreds of times, you can kind of summarize it or paraphrase it in a way that is easier for them to understand it, right? So you're able to retell that story. Kind of similarly with a script, is if you read it a bunch of more times, you'll remember and know what the story's about or what the scene's about. There are, it's important to give, the writer his due or her due. So you want to make sure that you know the lines properly as well. You can't not just paraphrase every story.
Yeah.
Like the line says, like, you are, I love you, and you're like, I kind of think you're great. Like, you need to know the lines, but I think it helps in kind of getting them in your body. And then I have other techniques that are kind of weird and quirky that I've learned through the years, where if it's not a huge amount of like lines and you're working on one scene, sometimes I record the other character and then I'll give a beat in between. So like I'll mouth my lines and then give that space so that when I press play, I will interact with myself in character, and I kind of give that to go through the script. Other times it's running around and doing push-ups, because I heard somewhere in one class, one technique is to mimic, kind of like what Stanislavski in his book was talking about, is you mimic the reality. So in preparation for drinking cold water, you drink cold water, right? So to prepare for auditions or for the real thing is prepare your body to behave in the same way, which was to get your heart elevated, because with nerves, your heart races. So in an audition room, when you walk in for the first audition, you're like nervous, so mimic that. So do push-ups, run around the room to get your heart elevated, and then recite the lines so that your body kind of can absorb that same environment. And the more you do something in that same thing, your body then makes it automatic. So that's one technique I learned along the way, but it doesn't work for a full script, because you're not gonna write 4 hours later, you're like, it'd be super fit though.
Good
Good cardio.
Definitely.
Yeah, so that's one, those are kind of some techniques I learned, but a lot of it is just reading, breaking down the script. There's a technical aspect to script analysis and absorbing, but a lot of it I think is understanding the story and your character.
One of the trick you mentioned when you record yourself and give a bit, I realize I use that one, but I use it usually when I get the last minute audition and I don't have a reader. Then I was using that. I never thought of using that specific way of doing for learning scenes. For scenes, for learning the lines.
It's another example, I think, for me, from the Stanislavski thought of putting yourself in the same environment to kind of mimic that world, so that your body gets used to it. So if you're doing a scene, you're going to do it with somebody in class or on set. If you're going to do a scene where all you're doing is reading their lines, and then you're saying your lines, and then you're memorizing that way, that person might, when the words come out, they might take it slow or they might take it longer. And that's another technique I kind of do, is if I have, depending on the length and how much time I've got to prepare, if it's a comedy, for example, I'll do the lines dramatically, or I'll do it screaming or singing, or just to get a different tone or way of saying it. Because when I first started acting in Susanna's class, one of those early classes, I memorized how I'm saying the lines. And so when I did the scene, I basically just redid the exact same thing I did at home for 3 days in preparation. And when the actor would give me something different, I just stayed in the same tone. There was no, he would or she would be like screaming at me, and in my head I memorized it as them just talking normally, so I just respond normally. And so I was just memorizing the format, and so I wasn't really reacting, I wasn't listening, I wasn't living. I was more just, this is how I do this, and this is, so it's very like planned. And so if you're just doing it in your head and not having somebody say it, sometimes I play around with how I respond, just to get out of my, I'm constantly saying this word the same way. It's not.
Get out of the box, kind of, that sometimes we create in our head.
And that's, rehearsals in theater is a lot like that. It's like you get to play, so that way you find your tone, you find your story, you find your character, and you're like, oh, it's a lot more impactful when I was saying it with, you know, in whispering and not yelling, or if I was more like still versus like big, outward. So you find different ways to perform, but it's also every actor gives you something different, right? Like if you all of a sudden right now just went, bah! I was like, what? If I would just be like, that's great. It's fun. It would just be awkward because it's not like you're part of that interaction. So if you're a sociopath, it's fine because you don't you don't interact. You're just like, but yeah, that's the difference, I guess.
Do you remember your first role that brought you? Do you remember the first audition that helped you to book your first role?
Yes. When it comes to union, okay, so there's the union and non-union world. My first non-union was audition was I don't know if it was a Trebas Institute audition, but it was for a speed dating. It was an independent production, like a short film, and it was a speed dating show, or a short film, and I played a gay character. And then, if I remember correctly, the other non-union project that I did early on was I played Gandhi, which was weird. It was for Trebas.
Okay, so you have a lot of history with
There's
Trebas.
a few.
Yeah.
My first union production, I don't think any of those should come out. They will come out, or they have come out. I don't know. But my first union role was on 19-2. I got shot in the head in a shotgun scene. I was in a car, and somebody shot at me, and the main characters came and looked at the crime scene, and I was still alive. So I got shot in the head, but I was still kind of alive, trying to reach for my phone, looking if I can answer somebody on Facebook. That was the scene, and I had a couple of lines, and I remember going into the audition room. It was at Kenyon, and I had to basically sit and perform being shot in the head, trying to reach for my phone. And I do remember vividly that the casting director that day, when I did the first take, she said, that was really good. Okay, let's just do one more. And then that, right off the bat, kind of alleviated so much stress, because I was like, okay, now I could just play. After that, I was like, okay, I did a good job. I didn't mess up anything, and it was a long process to get cast. I almost got not cast.
Was it the first union work?
Yeah.
Meaning that's the one that brought you that
union card.
Union card, like which
it's my first
a lot of actors, non-union actors, dream about the first credit to get into the actor world. Okay.
And it almost didn't happen.
Why?
It's a crazy story. Well, crazy.
I
Everything
had a question
to me is crazy.
about crazy or fun
Everything
story.
is crazy.
Perfect. Let's get into it.
But no, I got into. So I get the audition. It was a small. It's an actor role. So no small roles. It was an actor role, and I get a call that I've been sent to the director and the producers because it's a TV show. So it goes
you
through all
were
the layers.
chosen to be presented to them.
My audition went well, and now I'm part of the select few that are now being shown to that. And then I get the call that the director loves me, and production has.
I feel it's exciting.
It was great. I was like, this is my first union, and then the producers are like, it's a go. And then all of a sudden, I get a call telling me that the makeup artist doesn't think your hair's long enough for the makeup because it's a huge prosthetic for the gunshot wound. So the makeup artist said no. And so they went back to auditions. They sent it back. They had another round of auditions, and then I was told that the director was in the room for the new round of auditions. And when they finished the auditions, the director said, nope, I want him. let's make it work. So they called me back and they said, can you let your hair grow out for the next 2 weeks? And I was like, yeah, just give me whatever. Let me put more. I don't care. And so I went in 2 weeks later to the makeup room to get the prosthetic done. Sat there for 4.5 hours. Had this like gunshot thing in the back, in the front. It was great. I think your mic fell.
Mic just fell, sorry.
Hello.
Do you still hear me, guys? Okay, let's take from a little bit before my microphone.
So the director does the second round of auditions, but he doesn't like anybody, and he's like, I want Near in that, so let's make it work. So they're like, okay, can you grow your hair longer and keep it long for the next 2 weeks? I was like, yeah, I'll do it for sure. Why not? Just give me the part.
Yeah.
So I go in for the makeup. It takes 4.5 hours to do the prosthetics and sit there before getting the costume ready. And so they do all that. They get the prosthetics done. 2 weeks later, I get on set. I do the scene, but we are delayed. So the sun sets, and so they have to cut the scene short that day. So I have to come back, which I was supposed to be only for one day on set. So I have to come back for finishing the scene and another scene in the hospital where I actually die. So, but because they were delayed and they had to do some other work and other scenes, it took 2 weeks to get me back on set. And because after a certain period, you get an extra credit. So I got 2 credits.
Oh, really?
Instead of 1.
That's an interesting thing.
So I get two days on set and 2 credits, and then I finish the scene. Everything's great, and the funnest part about all this, and this is what actors love to hate, is 3 months later, I tell everybody that I'm on the show and the episode's going to air on whatever time. And I call my parents, I call my friends, and I'm sitting at home, turn on the episode.
Don't tell me they cut it.
They cut the entire thing.
Ouch.
So all the drama about getting cast, the director wanting me the hair and makeup, not agreeing, 4.5 hours for the prosthetics, being told from the hair and makeup that this is the most extensive makeup all season. Basically the storyline of my character is dead. So it doesn't show. So I have 2 credits and nothing to show for it. And then I get, just a quick side note, I get cast about a month or 2 later for another TV show, but this one's an SOC, silent on camera. I go into the audition room, I book the role a couple of days later, go on set. I'm given a baseball cap to do I'm a locksmith, so I open the door, the main actor opens the door, and I'm just supposed to be like, oh, sorry, I was just fixing the door. And they had a camera shoot me directly here, they had a camera from the top of the thing and a camera from the back. I tell everybody I'm on set. I get finally 3rd credit, which made me full union.
Full union, yeah.
I get on back home, turn on the thing, tell everybody to watch it. This time they didn't cut me completely, but they cut the front scene. So all you see is a guy's back and a guy's hat. Nobody knew it was me. So I got full ACTRA with nothing to show for it. So I had no demos. I couldn't get the scenes that were shot. I had nothing. I literally was like, well, there you go. I am full ACTRA. How'd you get full ACTRA? I got my audition, but I can't prove it to you. I literally have nothing to show for it. Yeah. So that was my first audition for union.
Okay, and I can understand why do you remember that so vividly.
Yep.
Funny thing that you told me, because my son, when he was supposed to get his first also like role, and we did audition with a certain haircut.
Yeah.
He got the role. And then, I mean, we didn't hear anything, so I said, okay. And it was like a big production, so I thought, like, no way. We did a haircut. And then we got the offer, and then the production said, like, oh, no, like, you cut his hair. I said, like, well, yeah. So then there was a 1 week of, I didn't even tell him, of waiting and thinking, oh, my God. Because they said, like, hey, we're going to think maybe we'll put him into another role.
No.
Yeah, so I can feel that thing also with the haircuts, whatever, and the changes, and like, yes, no.
It's tough.
It's tough. It's tough.
It is. Like, it's a world where you have to be always kind of like aware of what like a lot of times I remember early on I had actor friends tell me if you get a callback for a commercial or even a TV or film, wear the same thing that you wore on. And it's these are things that you don't necessarily think about. Like,
It never.
I just did the audition 2 days ago. I was sweating. I ran out afterwards. I dropped spaghetti on me. I left it in the, like, I didn't do the wash. Put it back on. Like, it's things like that we don't necessarily think about.
Don't cut, don't change
don't
your hair.
cut
Like,
your
now
hair,
I know, don't change your hair color, don't
oh
like
my God,
any...
I can't imagine for people who like to dye their hair.
Yeah,
Don't
and you
do
never
it.
know, because
You
like
never know.
you submit, you wait, and nothing.
Yeah, that's the good old actors world of like, and? Anybody, any news?
Anybody home?
Yeah. Imagine if that was like in other, I feel like now we all know it in the dating world, the ghosting. It's like getting ghosted every time. You're like, I did the audition, hello. Anybody?
Any feedback?
Anybody? Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting world.
Okay, so I want to just hop on another topic, which
Yes,
is still within your acting journey. Le trio. Le trio.
It's a great trio.
I personally think that you're genius, honestly, because I think that's the amount of the content and the idea, because you write all those skits, right? You're the writer, you're the three actors, you also edit them and you film them. So it's all a one-man show, even though it's a three, but...
You gotta be crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, and they're so... First of all, they're so distinguishable, so I want to really, I guess it goes back to your ability to mimic different accents. Now I understand where all this coming up. How did this idea, I mean, I understand how the idea came up because you've been doing that since you were a kid, but how did the idea came up specifically with Nir, Oleg, and Charlie?
So I will say, I'll back it up to the beginning of that journey of social media content, because acting is one side of like who I am and all that personality stuff and the accents, and the comedy is kind of part of my growing up of being a kid that was awkward and trying to fit in. So I was being always like the funny awkward kid trying to make friends and
fit in the crowd.
And then adapting to people's accents was also a way to fit in. Like I went to English, like a French elementary school, then French high school, and people spoke different types of French. Some were very thick Quebecois, some were regular standard Quebecois, and others had accents from immigrant countries, right? From other countries, and their French was different. So I was always trying to fit in, and that was my way of doing that as a kid and as I grew up. Then came almost 10 years now, Vine. I don't know if anybody remembers Vine, and this is showing my age. Vine was a 6-second video app. Before TikTok, before Instagram Reels, was an app called Vine. And on Vine, it was initially kind of like Musical.ly. People were making lip sync videos or quick dances. But Vine had...
Oh, it sounds like TikTok.
It was TikTok. It was actually, TikTok on crack. It was 6 seconds only. Like you only had 6 seconds. Only. There was nothing else. You could add more. You can do anything. 6 seconds. And so I saw this app blow up. And I'm watching it as an actor sitting on my couch waiting for auditions, going to acting classes, but not getting enough, ability to do stuff. Like I was doing theater at the time. I did 5 straight years of theater. So you're training, you're working on your craft, but you're not getting the opportunities, and you're waiting for more opportunities, and you're hoping for visibility and all that stuff, and to people to see what you can do. And all of a sudden I see this 6-second app, and I'm watching these anybody kind of people, not actors, just regular people doing funny videos or weird videos or all this thing, and they're getting visibility. They're going viral. All of a sudden, they're becoming celebrities of their own. And so these TikToks, these Vine celebrities started this movement. And I remember till this day, I still watch King Batch, Rudy Mancuso, like Lele Pons was before she was, now she's a big dancer, but these were like the Viners that I was looking at. And I just said to myself, well, if they are getting visibility through this app and are showing their talent, why don't actors do that? Like, why don't we show what we can do it and make it even better? Because we're actors, we can act these scenes and we can create stories. And so, but I was terrified because I thought that there was a stigma on social media, and I didn't want the community or casting or directors or that to see me do 6-second Vines and be on social media. So I started with Mickey Mouse as a doll
As a
in front of the camera, and me making the voice behind the camera, and it was a little raunchier version of Mickey Mouse going on dates and doing that and just being like, oh boy, I'm going to do the da-da-da, like whatever kind of random topic. And I posted it because I was worried to not be seen.
So we're not showing your face at all.
So the first 3 months was just that, and it got a little bit of views, and then I realized that nobody's watching this from Montreal's actor community or industry, and the industry wasn't really paying attention to it yet. So all of a sudden I put myself, and I was like, I don't have any followers from Facebook at the time that are actors on Vine, so let me just put myself in there. So I started with a weird meditation video where I'm sitting there trying to meditate and I can't focus, and all I do is a voiceover of like, oh, what did I eat last night? Oh, who do I owe money to? What's going on? Did I do this? And then I was like hitting flies going around. And that did a little better. And then came Charlie.
Okay.
I was like, I was doing this accent a lot in a relationship I was in. I was having the fun like playing with this accent. And I was working at a company where one of my managers had a thick French-Canadian accent in words like, he would say development, and so happiness, and so I was like, I was constantly playing around with that, and I thought, well, it would be funny if there's this character that's like this therapist, but a terrible therapist, and he was talking to, and I was talking to myself on the therapy on the couch, and he was basically, not great at therapy, and he's kind of clueless, and using that accent, and so one of the first videos was about poutine. And so I was saying like, like I need to put in 2 cents or something, as the English characters talking to the therapist, and the therapist like, poutine for 2 cents, that's crazy. Never had that. What kind of poutine? And so that led to views, and then it kind of grew there, and I kept doing that. And then Vine died, and was bought by Twitter, and then it died, and then Instagram started, and YouTube started getting all these creators to jump on board. And it expanded to 15-second videos, then 30-second videos, until TikTok came in like 5 years or 6 years ago. But at the time I was making short sketches with actors around Montreal. I worked with we did over 200 sketches with different actors. I was writing for them and putting myself as like a secondary character, and it was random relatable content that I thought was funny and interesting, and I would make it quirky and different.
I saw you reposted lately.
I'm reposting some of them again, but they were much more elaborate. They were like 3 minutes, 2 minutes, like a lot longer, because at the time it was like they were lengthening the number of minutes you can post videos in, and so, but it wasn't doing if you want views wise, it wasn't really getting any traction. Like I thought it was going to grow, because I was working with other actors and we would all share together and the community would grow. And I loved working with other actors and collaborating and networking around it, and it was great. But it wasn't doing anything for visibility. And one of the characters I kept bringing back was Charlie, with a friend of mine, Sean Curley, who was the patient. And every time I would do that video, it would get more views. And people constantly, when I would go to events or to my friends, they would say, you should do more of that character. And I was like, I don't want to be typecast. I don't want to just do that one character. I want to do more. I want to show my range. I was very stubborn with that. I should have kept going earlier, but I didn't do it. And then eventually Vine came in. And
TikTok.
TikTok came in.
Yeah.
And TikTok, I was seeing that it was 15 seconds only at the time. It was not you couldn't expand it.
I can do longer.
And I didn't want to go back. I was doing all these elaborate edits and videos and scripts of 3 minutes. I was like, I don't want to do 15 seconds. So I just took a video that I did with Charlie as a therapist, put it up, and it started getting traction. And then one day I drove to New York, and I realized that when you cross the border into Quebec, potholes are back. And so I just took a random quick clip of 14 seconds of me driving along the road, crossing the border, and all of a sudden going, and it got 250,000 views in a day. And so I realized that I needed to focus on growing that to get more visibility. And so I kept reposting old videos of Charlie, and it would do well. But I would still invite actors and to work with them, because I liked that concept of working with other actors. But then COVID hit. And at the time, I was also experimenting with Oleg, who was a character that was just a Russian character that was reviewing TV shows or movies and rating them on 5 Kremlins. It was, this is a great
Kremlin.
show for Kremlin, not the fire. And so basically I was like experimenting with that. And then I had my regular character, the English speaking one. And then COVID hit and I had to couldn't invite anybody over. So I basically took all of them and made that into them living through COVID. And it started taking off, because everybody was watching now. Now you had people at home not having...
And you hit on the right spot.
And I was talking about relevant things, on like what was the COVID rules and all these different things. And every so often I would alternate characters and do this and do that. And then I would bring in my personal life stories, and it was just, it would grow like through that. And that's kind of where it all started. Like they became their little family, crazy, psychotic family that I live in within my head. But that's the journey of Oleg, Charlie, and Nir.
Okay, I always wanted to ask you why Oleg. I mean, as being a Russian person, I was always thinking like, how does he mimics the accent so well? So why? Okay, Nir, I get it. Charlie, it's where we live, Montreal. Why Oleg?
So Oleg came because growing up, my mom's from Latvia and my grandparents are Russia, Latvia as well. And so my grandparents my mom speaks Russian and they would speak Russian to each other, but they didn't teach us. But I absorbed the accent. So whenever they would talk in English or they would try to talk to us, it was very much the accent that would come out, and I absorbed all these, growing up, all these accents. And so that's kind of where it started. And I was like, okay, what characters can I play that I can feel comfortable doing, but also be true to kind of my background? And so that was kind of that character. And I don't know why Oleg. I still don't know why I named him Oleg. But
I
Oleg.
mean, it's a very typical Russian name, so the name fits well.
Svetlana, Oleg, I don't know, Igor, all those names. But that was where Oleg came from.
How many accents can you mimic?
Not like I used to be a lot in my head better at doing accents because I was, again, it's practice. I think you have a knack for accents. Some people have better ability to mimic, but you still have to practice it, and I haven't done a lot of practice in a long time. But I used to do a little bit of like Austin Powers kind of. I do more of like characters that have accents versus pure accents. But I can do the Russian accent a little bit decently. French Canadian.
Oh no, decently, you do it perfectly. Good. You nailed it. You nailed it.
French Canadian, Quebecois accent, English, and then I used to play with Austin Powers or I'm trying to think what other. I used to do some British style, but I found out that I was terrible at it because I worked with somebody from England, and they were like, "What is that?" I was like, "I don't know. I thought it was really good, but it was not. It was terrible." It's not an accent that you need to practice. Accents are tough unless you have a knack for it, but you also, the older you get, the harder it is to just randomly pick up an accent. You have to really work on it. So yeah. Also, don't write accents that you think you can do on your resume.
Something happened to you?
Yeah. I auditioned to get into a workshop for actor on video games. And at the time, I had thought, because I'd done the random character actors of like Indian, or like I did Apu when I was watching Simpsons. I knew I could mimic Apu's accent, so I thought I could do Indian accent. I thought I could do Italian. I thought I could do English, like British. And I get on this audition in front of like 12 ACTRA members and actors from the community. And I do my scene, and that's fine. And then all of a sudden, one of them takes my resume, and goes, "It says here you can do some accents. I want to hear you do the accent right now. Just read the script with. It says here you can do Russian." And I'm like, "Oh, thank God." So that one, thank God he took that one, because he then said after I finished it, he was like, "Okay, good thing you can do Russian, because a lot of people put in their resume accents and they're not, and you have to be able to do it on the spot if it's on your resume." And I'm like, okay. I came home, I'm like, delete. So yeah, be careful with that unless you're really comfortable with accents on those specific. Don't write accents that you think you can do.
How do you come up with those ideas for the skits? Because it's every time it's different, and you have the whole discussion about the Montreal roads. You have like, it's not just a one type. You have a spectrum. What is it? Where do you find the inspiration for those?
My insanity. And it's just, I think it's, for me, it's just life living in Quebec, growing up in Montreal. We all experience the roads, we all experience the traffic, we all experience the language differences that we face, English, French, whoever you are, immigrants. And then there's like relationship stuff, and then there's like home stuff, and then there's friendships. But it's like, you said something that I struggle with a lot on social media, because of the fact that in order to succeed on social media and to continuously get views and to get traction and to get visibility, you need to do the same thing that works. Mm-hmm. And I hate that. I like to tell different stories sometimes. I keep the three characters the same mostly, but I like to tell different aspects of life or different storylines. So because of that, my algorithm's all over the place, because one group of videos, like the language, English is such a weird language, will get views from one group, and then all of a sudden I'm doing Montreal roads, and they're from, some of them are from England, Nigeria, France, and they're like, what is that? I don't know. So that doesn't do anything. And then you have the Montreal people, and then they don't relate with other videos. So it's my crazy lifestyle of, like, living and absorbing stories. The more you do it, I will say something that I think is interesting, because it reminds me of Sugar Sammy. The more you do something and the more you are passionate about something, the more that everyday life and every moment around you kind of makes you think about an idea. I was like, brought up Sugar Sammy because I did an acting class with Susanna, with him. Such an amazing guy. Years ago, pre-COVID. Such an amazing guy. But literally reminded me of Eminem in 8 Mile. We were talking before the class, and we're just talking to each other about life. And I said something as a joke, because I also make random comments here and there in conversation. And he's like, "That's funny." And he pulls out like a notepad and starts writing it. And that's exactly how I remember Eminem in the movie 8 Mile. He was like, "Oh, this is a great bar," and he just, like, everyday life triggers something. And after doing it for so long, your brain becomes kind of like geared to it. So now I'm literally, even here, I'm just like, oh, this is a good one. Let me remember it. I'll be on with friends. I'll go to like an event, and somebody will say something, or a word will come out that sounds funny, and I'll be like, just give me a second. I'll pull out my phone and put it in the notes. At night, I'll try to fall asleep, and I'll be like, oh, that's a great idea. Don't turn on the light. Don't turn on the light. Yeah, so it's just everyday life to me, and it just has now become a habit.
And that's so interesting, because I'm having my first trial as a stand-up comedian on Monday, and I started, like, that's exactly what I'm doing. I just got myself, like, every time that there is something, I'm trying to write it down on the phone. Or or I would wake up in the morning and say, like, shoot, like, I had a couple of cool ideas as I was like waking up.
Put a pen and paper, use Siri, Alexa, whatever you can beside your bed. I find at night when you fall asleep or early in the morning, best ideas come out. Your mind's racing about the day, and all of a sudden you're like, that was fun. Boop, and then, and sometimes I'm like, oh, that's so memorable, I don't need to. And I wake up the next morning, I'm like, what is the idea? And then I'm sitting there going, what did I do? It's a tough... So find ways to keep track of your notes.
I'm taking my phone and making
good for you for the
right away. My husband said, like, it was funny, like, we were walking the dogs, and I would walk like that, and he's like, what, like, are you trying to come up with the jokes? And so, like literally, like, yes, that's like, I keep on having those ideas or like situations, because in the end of the day, like, it's bringing back to your life situations. Did you ever try stand-up comedy?
Once.
Why once?
Because it was terrifying. I almost peed my pants, or shit my pants. No, I have a few stand-up comic friends, and one of them is in New York, and I would go visit him a lot and watch him do stand-up, and he said, you should do stand-up, try it. I was like, no, I'm not going to try it. And so he signed me up in New York to a comedy club where it's a bunch of, this is what I don't get about stand-up that I find is fascinatingly crazy to me. As actors, we go into acting class in front of other actors, but it's training. It's like an acting. And I guess it's the same concept, but I find it so crazy that a lot of stand-ups, when you start off, you're doing open mics, but the open mic is in front of other comics.
Come and join us. It's in front of the crowd.
Terrified. Because I'm like, they're comedians. They're going to judge my comedy. Anyways, but it was a comedy show at a open mic with a bunch of comics just sitting there. And he put me on the list. And I'm terrified. And 2 weeks before, I'm writing ideas and what should I do, and I try to like watch people and all these observations. Freaking out. I go to New York. I sit at the comedy club. Thank God that a bigger comic walks in and wants to go on stage that night. So they bumped me because I was the newbie, and he came on. I was like terrified but relieved. But when I left, my friend was like, "You owe me a stand-up. You give me your word." And I was like, fine. So I signed up for Montreal at Comedy Nest for the like newbie Tuesdays, but they were full, so they bumped me to Pro-Am Wednesdays, and I was like, damn. So basically I get on stage preparing again for a month, and I'm terrified, don't know, like, and that's what I find hard on stand-up is like, acting is you got a script, somebody else wrote it, or you wrote it, but it's a script and it's a character, and if you don't do well, or if people don't react, or if people don't like it, or people judge it, you could just be like, it wasn't me, it was a character. It was written, the writer wrote it, it's not my words. This is you. This is your comedy. You got to make people laugh, and you got to make somebody laugh that doesn't know you out of thin air. Like he's sitting there, or she's sitting there, or they're sitting there in front of you, basically, Saturday night, what am I going to do? Just hang out, watch people make jokes. They don't know you. They don't know your comedy. You don't know their comedy style. It is terrifying. It is such a skill and an art form and a vulnerable thing to do. And so I went up on stage for 5 minutes. I blacked out. The light went on multiple times, and then the guy came up and was like, "Wait, you're done. Get off the stage." I made some people laugh. Some jokes I thought were funny didn't get any laughs. Some jokes I thought were weird got laughs. But it was in front of 20 people that were coming from Frosh Week in university. I think we're there for beer because it was cheap beer. It was terrifying. And I remember there was a professional stand-up comic in the green room before me going on stage. He basically goes, tell me, you're either going to love it or hate it. Yeah. And so I finished the set and I go backstage. He's like, "So, did you love it or hate it?" And I was like, meh. I was like, it was fun, terrifying. I didn't love it because I don't think I got the reactions I wanted. And then I wasn't scared because I've already done theater. So you're already in front of an audience. Okay. And you're kind of prepared in terms of scripting because you know your jokes. So it's not as terrifyingly liberating where it's like your first time where you're like, oh my God, this feels amazing. Like you've done it if you've done theater. But it's a totally different world. And so I didn't get the impulse to do it again. I would like to maybe do it someday again, but good for you
Montreal
for getting...
Comedy Club.
Oh, good
every
for
Monday.
You. Oh my God. I don't know how you're like...
I haven't done it yet.
No, but I don't know how, like, it's an inspiring thing for anybody to, I think, put yourself in such... Acting is already vulnerable and already scary and already hard. It's like they say public speaking is one of the biggest fears for most people. Stand-up comedy is terrifying. Like, if you think about it. Yeah. But it is such an amazing thing to put yourself out there, and it makes you so much, I think... It also makes you a better actor if you do stand-up regularly. One time it's just like a good, like, I did it, okay, time to go home. But regularly it's a great way to, pick up on moments where it's quiet and you have to pivot, or somebody says something in the audience and you have to react to them. It's like improv, right? It's a little bit like picking up, what's going on.
Picking up or not being distracted by...
So good for you. It's amazing. No, just putting yourself out there and saying you're going to do it. When is it?
Monday. Tomorrow, actually. So yeah, I'm
right now you're feeling it. You're feeling it.
I start to feel it. Yeah, exactly.
Well, I feel you're going to do great. And again, it's not about generally making people laugh. It's subjective. Some people will think you're funny. Some people think you're stupid. Some people think your joke is flat. Just to tell your story. Just be you and just putting yourself out there in front of an audience, vulnerable. That's amazing. Good for you.
How would you define yourself as an actor? Are you more a comedian, or you love more drama, or I don't know, maybe action movies?
Ooh, comedy is my, I guess if you want to call it, comfort zone. So it comes easier to me. I love drama though. I love all different types of acting. I would say that the one type that I'm very uncomfortable probably doing, I don't know if I would love to try it, is horror. Like being randomly fearful by seeing a tennis ball in front of you because they're not going to bring in a, you have to be like fear of death in you. That to me is an interesting, exciting kind of angle to try to do. But I've never done it. I've done it in class maybe. Like
I think you've done like a small short film, a horror film. I saw it.
Well, I think I may have wrote that, and I think I was if you're talking about what I'm thinking about, and it was more like a creepy vibe versus a fearful vibe, and there may have been humor in it as well. But a pure horror movie, I'd love to do. But drama, I love drama. Like I love all forms of and genres of acting, but comedy is my comfort zone. I grew up acting in front of groups to fit in. That was my
making
comedy.
People laugh.
Yeah.
As I said, you're amazing at that. So, what's next for Nir?
Making a living.
Oh,
In terms of acting, you're still doing the auditions, the preparations, doing the sketches for social media. To me, that's my creative outlet. It's my way of staying sharp and staying creative. I have some short films coming out, hopefully soon. I don't know when. One was, which I'm excited about, is a comedy with a puppet. So I had a puppet. It's a cute like rom-com puppet thing. And one is another one called Mensch, which was filmed earlier this year, late last year. So those two are short films that are supposed to come out. And that's for now. I'm not really remembering probably something else, but that's right now what's on the docket. The rest is, I've always still wanted to get back into writing scripts of either a short film or a feature or something. Who knows? I have ideas, but I find it daunting because I do sketches every day almost, so I'm writing.
Oh wow, okay.
I write every week at least 1 or 2 sketches, so that takes time. So to sit down and write a whole feature or a short, I feel like I have to juggle my time to figure out, do I take a break with sketches? And I fear taking a break because then I lose that visibility that I've been accustomed to, so I don't know. I'm debating. That's kind of what's going on right now.
Well, thank you very much for your time. It was a pleasure to talk to you and just to
me.
learn more things about you as Nir and how Charlie and Oleg and all of those things. I personally love watching those, and
Appreciate
as well as my son. So you have a wide target audience
That's
on the
crazy
videos, so that's for sure. And yeah, hope to see you on screens.
And on set.
More and on set, and maybe exactly to be with you on set at one point of time would be
Thank you for
amazing.
having me, and the good luck on your break a leg. I don't know if it's a good luck how you say for stand-ups, but I'm sure
yes,
you're gonna do great.
same,
You'll have fun. Just have fun.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the conversation and looking forward to see you at the next episode.